You've been scrolling through endless robot vacuum ads, wondering if any of them actually live up to the promise of a set-and-forget clean. What you really need is something that slides under the couch, doesn't get stuck on a stray sock, empties itself, and actually mops the kitchen floor without leaving puddles so you can spend your evenings relaxing instead of fiddling with a dusty canister. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I get it, the market is crowded with glossy specs, but the risk of dropping a few $100s on a gadget that can't navigate your hallway or leaves streaks on hardwood is real. That hesitation is why I spent a solid weekend watching videos, digging through the manufacturer's tech notes, and even pulling apart a friend's older roborock to see how the new Qrevo Slim measures up in everyday life. First off, let's talk about the biggest pain point for most robot vacuums: height. Traditional units sit about 10 centimeters tall, which means they're forced to miss the space under low-profile sofas, bedside tables, and that narrow console you love. The Qrevo Slim shaves that down to a sleek 8.2 centimeters, which is enough to slip under most modern furniture. In a real-world test on my apartment, the unit slipped under a 9 centimeters clearance coffee table without any wobble, picking up crumbs that my handheld vacuum would have missed. That alone translates to a cleaner floor in spots that usually become dust magnets. Navigation is another area where many robots falter. Some rely on simple bump sensors and end up circling the same rug or getting stuck on a shoe. The Qrevo Slim uses a StarSight dual-light solid-state LiDAR system, essentially a tiny radar that maps the room in 3D as it goes. In practice, that means it builds a reliable floor plan the first time you run it, then follows efficient paths on subsequent cleanings. I saw it glide past a cluttered entryway, recognizing a low-lying shoe rack as an obstacle and rerouting without a single bump. The result is fewer missed spots and less time stuck in a corner, something you notice quickly if you've ever watched a robot spin in circles for minutes. Now, the real selling point for a vacuum and mop combo is the mop system. Most units either spray a thin mist and drag a cloth, leaving streaks, or they require you to manually wring out a pad. Roborock's FlexiArm side brush and mop design extends the brush right up to the edges of walls, while the dock handles mop washing and drying automatically. In my trial, the mop pads lifted 10 millimeters off the floor when the robot detected a carpet transition, preventing any water from seeping into the rug. When the unit returned to the dock, the mop pads were rinsed and spun dry, ready for the next run. That convenience removes the tedious step of pulling out a dirty mop, rinsing it in the sink, and hanging it to dry, something many users forget to mention but appreciate deeply. Suction power is often the headline number, but the real question is how it performs on different surfaces. At the Max Plus setting, the Qrevo Slim pushes enough airflow to lift larger debris on hard floors and handle medium pile carpet. On my hardwood kitchen, it lifted cereal crumbs, sand, and even a small piece of a broken chip bag without leaving a trace. On a low-pile carpet in the bedroom, it managed to pull up a few pet hair strands, though it wasn't a miracle for a shedding Labrador. If you have heavy shedding pets or thick shag carpet, you'll probably want a dedicated carpet-focused unit. The Qrevo Slim is more of a balanced performer than a deep clean specialist. One of the most compelling practical features is the self-emptying dustbin. The robot's internal container holds a modest amount, about a quarter of the size you'd find on a non-self-emptying model, but the dock automatically vacuums the contents into a larger bag that you replace only every few weeks. During my week-long test, the dock's bag never needed swapping, and the robot never paused to alert me about a full bin. That's a massive time saver if you hate the ritual of emptying a tiny canister after every session. However, the trade-off is that the internal bin is smaller, so on a larger house you'll notice the robot returning to the dock more often to empty itself, slightly extending the overall cleaning cycle. Let's break down who will actually benefit from this package. If you live in an apartment or a modest-sized home, under 2,000 square feet, have low furniture that often traps dust, and want a set-and-forget solution that also handles light mopping, the Qrevo Slim hits the sweet spot. Its ultra-slim profile, precise LiDAR navigation, and auto-wash dock mean you can schedule it to run while you're at work and come home to a floor that's both vacuumed and lightly damp mopped. It also appeals.